Following the attack on Israel by Iran, the airspace over 5 countries has been shut. Iran airspace closed to VFR flights only. Airspace over Jordan, Iraq, Lebanon, Israel has been closed. My colleague Vishnu is also now joining us on the broadcast, getting us more on that. Vishnu, that's the latest we're picking now. Following the attack on Israel by Iran, airspace over 5 countries now has been shut.
Let me just tell you a little bit about, the state of the attack itself. Now, I was tracking this through the early hours of the morning, and as you've been, reporting quite correctly, this is a major escalation as far as the conflict in West Asia is concerned. But to the question on whether these strikes have been successful and the extent of the damage on the ground, the reports that I've been tracking now for the last 1 hour indicate that while there have possibly been some hits on the ground, the extent of the damage doesn't suggest that there has been a very large impact in terms of loss of people on the ground, or the extent of damage is certainly not visible in what we've seen. And there's a lot of social media out there, a lot of experts on the ground who are actually talking about this. Now, the way it has worked out is that Iran fired possibly hundreds of ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and drones, one-way drones, all together simultaneously. Now, Israel has one of the most sophisticated air defense systems on Earth. And as I understand it, the Arrow interceptors, which are the outer line of that tiered defense system, which is a missile system and a radar system which works together and is designed to intercept ballistic missiles in the atmosphere well outside Israel's territory. That worked very well in taking out the ballistic missile threat. There is a system called the David Sling, which works inside. It also has a fairly robust range of several hundred kilometers. That would be more effective in taking on, let's say, not just ballistic missiles, but largely cruise missiles, and possibly also interceptions of drones. The line which comes inside that is the Patriot system. The Patriot is a legacy system. It was acquired from the United States. It has been made far more advanced than what we've seen over the last couple of decades. That is a third system which comes in. And then, of course, there is the Iron Dome system, which we've seen work very effectively as well. The Iron Dome is essential in taking out interceptions of cruise missiles, but also of the leakers of drones, those which actually manage to get in. Along with that, there are fighter aircraft of the Israeli Air Force, reports suggesting that they've actually been intercepting cruise missiles, inbound, and indeed drones. There are US fighter aircraft and surface-to-air missile systems in the West as well, deployed in the Middle East, which have also been activated. Also, Royal Air Force aircraft, I believe, are activated. And if they did intercept anything, we'll come to know about that as well. So it's this tiered defense, which in the preliminary phases of this expansion of the conflict, which appears to have worked to ensure that the large number of the threats which have come towards Israel have been intercepted.
And Vishnu, there is a retaliation that's expected from Israel as well. Well, this is not just going to stop here.
Well, that's unfortunately the question that's on top of everybody's mind. How is Israel going to retaliate, and whether they're going to retaliate? What I can say is Iran doesn't have the tiered defensive system that I was just describing, which Israel does have. Therefore, any ballistic missile attacks which do take place from Israel to Iran, or cruise missile attacks, or even drone attacks, would likely have a much larger impact on the ground in terms of hitting Iranian targets, etc., etc. One other point I'd like to mention is that there are some suggestions, and I've seen that in an Iranian statement, that Iran was trying to target military bases of the Israelis, and they weren't going after, by and large, areas which have a large human population. Again, that needs to be borne out with in terms of what we see on the ground in terms of impacts, but we've seen very little of those. And just a little bit of video which has emerged of interceptors being fired and interceptions taking place. It's been night over there, dark over there, but that's usually when you see a lot of these. We've seen that earlier on in the battle between Hezbollah and the Israeli forces, and Hamas and the Israeli forces before that as well. But the preliminary assessment, and I think this is what people in India are waking up to want to understand, are 2 or 3 points. Number one, a massive expansion of the conflict in West Asia. Number two, a large number of drones, cruise missiles, and ballistic missiles fired by Iran for the first time in their history onto Israeli territory. Number three, initial analysis suggests that most of these have been intercepted, the impact on the ground possibly limited, the loss of life at this stage not known, perhaps minimal. Fourthly, the immediate regional impact, as you mentioned, the airspace of several countries in that area closed off right now. So that's the immediate situation. And whether Israel will retaliate or respond to this is something that we need to wait and see.